Hello, Patriots. It is January 2021. um, Tomorrow's New Year's Day. It's December 31st, 2021, and New Year's Eve. And so I thought I would post my last video for the year and talk about something that I've really wanted to discuss for a very long time. And it's music related. And some of you might be surprised to discover a few things about the music that you listen to, because music is math, and some people have sort of like a natural repulsion to math, and but when it comes to music, music is all math, and people don't like to think of it that way. But if you just entertain me for just a little while, try to absorb what I'm telling you. You might find that your whole way of thinking about music is going to change, because it changed for me. First off, let me say that I grew up in a very culturally rich family. My parents owned a successful business in one of the richest suburbs of the United States. We had two exchange students live with us. My father was very musical. He loved to play guitar, mandolin. He had a concertina. We always had instruments around the house. We had a piano and a Thomas organ, which is how I learned how to play the piano. So music and culture and all that stuff was very, very strong in my upbringing. I grew up in a very culturally rich family, and I taught myself how to play piano and organ. I did later have a formal instruction. I did quite well, but at the same time, computers were starting to become more affordable, and the music equipment that you could plug into your computer through MIDI and whatnot was becoming more affordable. So, when it came to my music making pursuits, I stayed in the digital domain. I can read music. I'm not fluent, but I understand music. I understand the science of theory and whatnot. But I started composing music after I got my first real professional synthesizer, the famous Roland Juno 106. That was my first synthesizer I purchased with my own money, and I made a lot of music with it. But I can go into all that detail some other time. But music has been an integral part of my life. It's been major therapy for me. In 2015, I was diagnosed with childhood post-traumatic stress disorder. I didn't know it. I had it my whole life, and music was really what kept me together. I did have some bouts with drug addiction and alcoholism, but they never really took hold because I always went back to music. Music was really my therapy. And so making my own music and listening to music, and particularly instrumental music. I like pop music. I like vocal music. I like lyrical music, but my true love is instrumental music, from classical to film scores to electronic music, and that's what I make. I could write lyrics. I've written lyrics. I've sang. I've been told I have a good voice. I think I've got a good voice, but it's just because to me music is a universal language, and when you add the lyrics, you're sort of selecting the audience for the audience. People that may not speak English aren't going to understand the Beatles so much, and that's a shame. Certainly those songs have been re-recorded in other languages, but instrumental music to me is the ultimate form of music expression, because you're trying to tell a story without words, and you really have to understand the nuances of tonality and melody and harmony to express those ideas. So that's why I like instrumental music. But in 2015 seems to be a pivotal year in my life. I learned a lot about myself that year, and I learned a bit about music. And in 2015, I ran across this thing called 432 hertz, and I wasn't sure what to make of it. because when I started investigating and doing my own research, there was a lot of different approaches to it. People were saying that it was the frequency of the universe, and it's part of this. There was a whole mysticism about it that I really didn't sit well with me, because even though I do give credence to things like astrology, numerology, Kabbalah, those kind of things, because math doesn't lie, and those are actually based on mathematical ideas, believe it or not. But when I heard about 432 hertz, I'm like, well, what is this all about? And over the last, well, ever since 2015, the idea that this is how we should be tuning our music is just continually reinforced. Okay. It's not something that it was just like a passing fad. It's just like, oh, okay, well, it sounds slightly different, but I didn't really understand what I was experiencing until after I exposed myself to it over and over and over again. And ever since, I've totally retuned all of my music that I've created to 432 hertz. Now, what I'm talking about is the music that we listen to in the Western world. It's based on a 12-tone system, also known as 12-tet, where basically you have the 12 notes, and they repeat. And we designed that, and it's called equal temperament. We created equal temperament so that we could transpose songs so that, like, say, someone who has a different range than another artist, they can sing with the same characteristics in another key. And so that's why we developed the equal temperament system in a 12-tone scale. Now, all instruments in our Western music that we listen to on the radio and television, on commercials, 99.9% of it is tuned to a bass tuning of what's known as A440. Basically what that means is middle A on a keyboard or a piano must be tuned to 440 hertz, or also known as cycles per second, which is like the vibration. So like if you pluck the middle A on a piano string or a guitar string, that vibration is going to vibrate at exactly 440 times per second. It's going to vibrate at that frequency. Okay. And then all the other notes on an instrument are tuned equidistant to that. Okay, so there's the mathematical principles are that, the middle is A440, and then, A sharp, also known as B flat, it's going to be a certain mathematical distance from that A, and so on and so forth. Okay, that's wrong. That is wrong, and it's wrong for one simple reason, is the fact that that is a standard that was actually forced on us in the 50s after the war, and when the standards were starting to be developed for media, and because technology was growing at such a fast pace that recorded audio was improving. There might have been a bunch of other reasons for it. I've heard like the Nazis had a lot to do with it. The fact that A440 was adopted by the Nazis because it made people less passive and more aggressive. And I can kind of see that. There are some videos on YouTube that demonstrate the patterns that we get from these bass tunings that could affect us physiologically. And in looking at these videos and seeing how the A440 frequencies actually are not as aesthetic, or as I like to say, organic as 432, you'll see the uneven, non-symmetrical patterns that come from that frequency. And as you might be able to have guessed already, 432 is actually the bass frequency we should be tuning our music to. So A should be 432 vibrations per second rather than 440 vibrations per second. And the reason for that is the fact that nature's bass frequency is 432 hertz. The larynx, the natural bass tuning of the voice box, is 432 hertz. A equals 432 hertz. The opera composer Giuseppe Verdi, he was very much of a proponent of 432 hertz because his opera singers could hit the higher and lower notes much easier than they could at any other frequency, any other bass tuning. And before the standards were developed, orchestras were tuning to a lot of different standards. There was no standard. Some would go higher than 440, some would go lower than 432. It all depend on the discretion of the composer and what they wanted to achieve musically. But Giuseppe Verdi was very much a proponent of a 432 hertz standard because it was easier for his singers to sing at that bass frequency. So as I learned all this stuff, I started to change my music. And one of the first things I did was I took one of my keyboards and I tuned it down to 432 hertz. A equals 432 hertz. And I just started playing. And I listened to this and I'm like, first off, my first impression was it sounded out of tune. I was like, well, it doesn't seem like it's in tune. But it was. Everything was in tune. And all the notes were tuned properly, equidistant from each other. And then I started taking some of my favorite music and did a big batch conversion of what I could, and started listening to it. And after a while, I noticed. Well, one of the first things I noticed is that my speakers started to develop this resonance. Like when the music would hit like a certain like bass frequency, the casing of my speakers, sometimes they would rattle a little bit. It was really interesting. It was like something was trying to get out, and then I started reading about, the whole mystical aspects of it, why people believe it's the frequency of the universe and all this other stuff, is the fact that it has to do with the 432. If you add it together, you get 9. And 9 in Kabbalah numerology is it's a divine number. It's considered a divine number. Nikola Tesla is quoted as saying, if you understood the power of 3, 6, and 9, you'd have a key to the universe or something like that. And 3, 6, and 9 are very important in Kabbalah and numerology, in that when you add or subtract 3, 6, and 9, you always get 3, 6, and 9. Like you can't add 3, 3, 3, 3, 6, 9, 9, 9, 3, 6, 9, and not get 3, 6, and 9. It's really a very interesting mathematical idea that apparently has some higher dimensional properties. I think that there's a lot we still have to learn. Maybe there's a lot that has been learned that we're not being told, because it would change our entire world. People would be different. Maybe we'd be able to really, communicate in more profound ways, to understand our world, to understand nature. Because nature has a lot to give us, has a lot to teach us. And in understanding 432, I feel like it's a gateway to realizing just what power nature has that we don't acknowledge, that we don't really understand. I was watching a program on television once, and it was about singing fish. There's a breed of fish that will hum during mating season. And sometimes if their numbers are great enough, it can really keep people awake at night. It can disrupt. And so I was watching this program, and so I recorded their mating call, and then I put it through my tuner. I have a digital tuner here. I can patch in on one side an audio signal, and then select a bass tuning, and then see what note is coming through and if it's close to that bass tuning. And those singing fish were singing in the key of B at 432 hertz. So life being a byproduct of sacred geometry and the mathematical properties of 432 hertz, it just seems to make sense to me that 432 is really what we should be tuning our music to. And because it is what nature is founded on. It's a mathematically sound construct, whatever you want to call it, for sound, for the vibrations around us that are healthy, that are holistic. And I do believe since the standard of 440 was established, our world has been poisoned. I do believe it's a form of sound pollution. You know, it's not our natural song. It's not our natural vibration organically. And so when people talk about 432 hertz being mystical and magical, I do believe in that to a degree, but I think it's more to do with organics. And being a composer that works completely in the digital domain and all of my synthesizers, well, I couldn't say completely. I do have an acoustic guitar, but I barely touch it. That's going to change soon, but I work mostly in the digital domain, and so I work with a lot of synthetic timbres. Now, if you are a music lover and you're curious about 432 hertz, go on YouTube or listen to my music. I mean, all of my music is tuned to 432 hertz, but you can get on YouTube and there's a lot of recordings that have been uploaded of popular music or classical albums that have been retuned, as they say, to 432 hertz. So to me, 432 hertz is more organic. It's more aesthetic. It is more. I feel, some people say, "Oh, it's all in your head." Well, maybe. My ears though have been listening to music my whole life, all kinds of music, and loving it all, and I notice a difference. It's almost the difference between a hot sunny day and just a bright sunny day. A440 is when it's too sunny and it's hot and it's like you can barely stand the heat and the brightness of the day. And then you've got a 432 hertz, which is like a nice sunny spring day where it's nice and cool. It's not too bright. It's partly cloudy, maybe even, and it's comforting. And you could be there all day. That's just one of many analogies I could come up with, and it seems to make sense that with what's going on in our world and how a lot of the forces that rule over us have been manipulating every aspect of our lives, from the food we eat to the television we watch, to the movies we watch, to the games we play, our education, how there's always these things and making it just slightly off so that we're always hungry for something else. We're always hungry for more. And that's what the ruling class has been doing to us for over 100 years, making us hungry for freedom so that we work harder, so that we make more money, because money is freedom to the ruling class. And that's just not true. Just like music that's tuned to a frequency that's not natural might make us want something more. Well, I believe that if you start changing your music library and the music you make, if you're a musician, if you start working with 432 hertz as a bass tuning, you might find something a little bit extra in that music, in that it it's more maternal, more organic, yeah, more more healing, healthier, better for us. And I honestly believe that our world is as disruptive as it is topsy turvy as it is, because everything that's coming through to us on the radio is noise. Is noise, mostly. It really is. So that being said, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful new year, and I hope that you've learned something about music that you didn't know before. And I hope that you enjoy the music I create and enjoy the music that other musicians who tune to 432 hertz. There's a growing body of composers and recording artists out there who are creating their music in 432 hertz because they do recognize it as being healthier, more organic, more natural, and in some respects, a connection to God, connection to divine, sacred geometry of which life is connected to. So with that, thanks for watching. Happy New Year and God bless.